Hello and welcome back to another episode of my Ability System series. After having completed our skill tree preparation in the last episode, we can now go ahead and create all of the widgets that we'll need to put together our skill tree. So let's jump right into it. Let's go to the skill system folder, widgets, right click, create a new widget blueprint, and the first one will be called W_connection. And we will use that widget, for example, if you need to have skilled Flame Nova before being able to learn the Arcane Missile, then we would connect those two skills in the skill tree to indicate that. And we'll use the connection widget for that. Let's open that up. Setting to desired on screen. Move the canvas. And here it's really simple. We just grab a size box, drag that in, check width and height override, and set those to 3 pixel in width by 151 pixel in height. And the only thing we'll do is add one image to this that we will make a variable called line or connection line, whatever you want. Expand the brush, go to the image and search for the connection line. Afterwards, we will go to the draw as and select box and then enter a margin of 0.3. What this will simply do is basically allowing us to scale our connection line without ever losing quality. So basically making it tile properly. Also, let's go to the color and opacity and expand that and just decrease the alpha to 0.7. Alright, then we can compile, save and close our connection widget. But our skill tree will not only consist of connections, but also of the actual skill entries that are in there. So those will be created next. Select widget blueprint again, W_skill tree entry, we will call those. Open that up, and again set the setting here to desired on screen. We will remove the canvas panel and start with size box again. Check width and height override, and we will set those to 145 by 111. Then in our size box we will add a canvas, and in that canvas we will add an overlay. Let's make that a variable, call it skill overlay. Give it a size of 111 pixel by 111. So we got a nice big square here for our skill, and on this side we will put an increase and decrease button. Right, in that overlay we will start with a size box, and this size box here will have a padding of 1 from the top corner. We will set it to align center both horizontally and vertically, then give it a width and height override of 81 by 81 pixel, and in there add an image which will represent our skill. So let's just call it skill icon. Look for default, so focus of mind, and we will give it a default color and opacity. And I'm just going to enter a hex linear code here, which is 3A 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 FF, just to make it look like we haven't learned that spell yet. Then we will add an image onto our skill overlay, so it will appear above the size box. This will be our skill border, and the image here will be skill border. There are actually 2 of those, but we will use the one that's in the skill tree subfolder, this one. And the last entry in our skill overlay will be a text to indicate our stage. So we can just call that the stage text. Make it a variable. Align it vertically to the bottom. Default text can be 0/1. We'll give it a padding of 18 pixels to the left and 13 to the bottom. Then we'll lower the font size to 11 and set the font type to bold italic, and finally give it an opaque shadow. So that's it for the skill overlay. We can collapse it if we want to. Afterwards, add a vertical box to our canvas panel. Let's call that the upgrade box and make it a variable. Position will be 104 for X and 12 for Y. We will make it size to content, give it a Z order of 2, will appear above our skill overlay, and the default visibility will be hidden. Then we will grab a button and add that on top of our upgrade box. Let's call that the plus button. We'll make that align center in both dimensions and expand the style and go to normal. Search for plus depth. Draw that as an image. We will copy that for hovered and pressed. And then go to hovered and select the plus hover. Go to pressed, select plus press. Okay, then we can right click, copy the plus button, paste it onto our upgrade box. And now this will be the minus button. Then go into the style and we'll just exchange the plus default for minus default. And same goes with the hovered. So let's look for minus hovered. And finally minus press. Right? And save this. And close the skill tree entry. Then we need our next widget blueprint, which will be w_subtree. So our tree will consist of various subtrees for categories. So we can have one for defensive spells, one for attack moves, and so on. Open that up. Again, desired on screen should be the default here. Move the canvas panel. Add a size box. Set the width override to 540. Then we'll add a scroll box. That scroll bar thickness will be 1 in X, 1 in Y. And then we will expand the bar style. Go to the vertical top slot image. Set the image size to 2 in X, so it won't be that thick anymore. And then we'll give it a tint. Hex linear code here will be 656565 FF. And we can drag that onto our color palette here, because we will need that. Then go to the vertical bottom slot image. Again, size in X should be 2. And the tint, we will select the gray we just copied here. Then go to the normal thumb image. Give that a tint as well. And here we will use a slightly lighter gray. So hex linear code here will be 8E, 8E, 8EFF. And finally go to the hovered thumb image. Expand that and we will give that a slightly bluish tint. So I'll use the hex linear code of 4396B9FF. Then we'll add another size box onto our scroll box. And here we want to check minimum desired height. Set that to 540. And finally add a canvas panel onto the size box. Let's make that a variable, call it canvas. And here we will dynamically generate the content. So all of the skill tree entries and connections. And because this is put in a scroll box, we can have infinite content in there. Pile and save. Then we can close our subtree. Create another user interface widget blueprint called w_tree category. Open that up. Again, set the setting to desired on screen. Remove the canvas. We will start with a size box again. This time we will check the height override, set that to 44 pixel. Then go to the minimum desired width and set that to 120. And finally go to the maximum desired height and also set that to 44. Then grab an overlay and add that. In our overlay we will start with a button and let's call that the category button. Make it fill. Go to the normal style and choose the category default, and we will draw that as a box with a margin of 0.25. Okay, collapse that again, go to the hovered and select category hovered, go to the pressed and select category press. Then we can copy the pressed and paste that onto our disabled. Afterwards we will add a text onto that overlay and make that the category name should also be a variable. It will be aligned to the center. The padding will be 28 to the left, 27 to the right, and 2 to the top and bottom. Then our text can read something like defense as a default. Font size will be 25, and let's make that regular. Then go to the color and opacity, and we will use a grayish tone for that. So let's look for something similar to the outline of our border. Yep, something like that should work. Also make sure that the visibility is set to hit test invisible or self hit test invisible, so that the cursor will hit the button beneath the text here. And the good thing about this setup here is that we can type in any text and the background button will stretch to the size of that text without elusive quality. Alright, that's it for the tree category. Close that. But now we still need the main tree, so let's create another widget blueprint called w_main tree and open that up. Again, desired on screen, remove the canvas panel. We will start with a size box like we always do. Check width and height override and set those to 625 by 928. Then add a canvas and add another size box. For that size box we'll increase the position in Y to 40. Check size to content and set the width and height override to 612 by 888. Then in that size box add a border. And for that border we will use a brush, so let's search for the skill tree BG for background. And for the padding we'll type in 7,7, 35, 45. Then add a canvas to that border. And in here we will start laying out the content of our skill tree. So first off, let's add an overlay to our canvas. We'll anchor that to the upper right anchor here. Set the Z order to 1. Check size to content. And the position will be -114 and 60 in Y. Then we will add an image onto that overlay. That doesn't need to be a variable, so we can uncheck it and look for the SP icon for our skill points. There it is. And then we'll add a text onto that overlay, which will be the SP text. Make that a variable, align to the center. Default text can be something like 0, doesn't matter really. Give it a padding of 2 to the top. Increase the font size to 40 and we can keep it bold. And then we'll expand the font settings, outline settings, and give it an outline size of 3. Add another text to that canvas, not to the overlay, and let's call that the level text. Make sure that's a variable. Z order of 1. Check size to content. Position will be 100 by 82. Default text can be something like 9, and the font size will be 38, and let's make that regular. Final thing here is giving it an opaque shadow. After that we will add a scroll box onto that canvas panel. Make that a variable and we call that the categories box. Position will be 216 in Y. and 0 in X. Then our size will be 566 by 44. The order will be 2. We'll scroll down, set the orientation to horizontal, scroll bar visibility to collapse, and scroll bar thickness to 0, 0. Then we will add another image to that canvas panel. Uncheck the variable, give it a z order of 1, check size to content, and position will be 248 in Y. Then for the brush we will search for the category spacer. Then finally we need a widget switcher in our canvas. Call that the Subtree switcher, and that has to be a variable. We can align it to the lowest center point here. The order of 1. Default visibility will be hidden. Position will be 0 in X and minus 568 in Y. The size will be 540 in X and 550 in Y. And then we'll just set the alignment to 0.5, and that should be it for the Subtree switcher. Last thing we need here is a button, and now we need to be careful to drag that on top of our first canvas, not the second one that we've been working with so far. And that will be the close button. Size of 100 by 100. The order of 3, just to make sure it's above our skill tree. Anchor it to the upper right point. The alignment will be 1 in X and 0 in Y. And then we'll reset the position in X to 0. Finally expand the style, go to normal, and let's search for the close default, draw as an image, copy paste that to hovered and pressed, and go to the hovered and select the close hovered, go to pressed, select close pressed. Compile, save that, and that's all of the sub widgets that we need. We can close our main tree and put that in our main widget now. So in our main widget, expand the user created and drag in a W main tree. You can just call that the skill tree. Anchor it to the right center here with a Z order of 5, just to make sure it's above everything else. Alignment will be 1 in X and 0.5 in Y. Then the position in X will be 0, and in Y it will be 0 as well. Check the size to content, and we'll set the visibility to hidden by default. So we need to press a certain key to show the skill tree. Last thing that we will do today is adding all of the variables to our widget, so that in the next episode we can jump directly into creating all of the functionality. So starting with our main tree, we need a variable which will be the skill tree, and that variable type will be bpc skill tree reference. Then we need the currently selected index of a widget switcher, that will be an integer. Compile and give that a default of -1, so we have nothing selected by default. Create another variable. This will be the tree's categories. Variable type will be s_tree category, and make that an array. Then we need the category widgets. Variable type will be w_tree category reference, and also an array. And finally we need the Subtree widgets, and that will be a w_Subtree reference array. Okay, compile, save, close the main tree. Let's proceed with the tree category. Open that up, go to the graph. We first need the name of our category, so just call it category, make that a text. And this will be editable and exposed on spawn. Then we'll need a boolean called selected ? As well as a reference to our main tree, which will be a w_main_tree reference. This one should also be editable and exposed on spawn. And finally we need the index of this category. That will be an integer, editable, exposed on spawn. Compile and save. Close our tree category. Let's go on with the subtree. So w_subtree. Go to the graph. First need the content. That will be an s_subtree content, one of the structures we created in the last episode, and make that editable and exposed on spawn. Then there will be the skill entries, and that will be w_skill tree entry references, so that will be an array. Then we also need to keep track of the connections, and that will be an array as well, but this time of w_connections. And then finally we need a reference to our main tree here as well. Just call that main tree, w_main tree reference, and just a single variable, but editable and exposed on spawn. Compile and save this. The last variables that we'll need are for our skill entry, so let's open that up. Go to the graph, add a variable called Subtree. So which category basically does this belong to? That will be a w_subtree reference, editable and exposed on spawn. Then we need the skill class that is assigned to this widget here. That will be a master skill class, also editable and exposed on spawn. Also we need the skill actor. That will also be a master skill, but a reference instead of a class. And finally we need a boolean called spell learned ? Make that a boolean. Compile, save, and that's it for creating all of our widgets and their variables. So in the next part we will finally be able to create all of the functions, events that we need to drive the logic of a spell tree, meaning learning spells and upgrading them. So see you in the next episode.